Good morning and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Julian, Bonnici, joined with me is John Celia. Today we've got yet another action-packed episode for you. The stories are as follows. The first has got to do with a master priest admitting that he watches porn and masturbates. The second is about police investigating parents for misappropriating donations meant for the child's treatment. The third is a crazy story out of Hamloon after a man was charged with threatening his mother with a sword. Then we're going to Joseph Muscat after he sued a lawyer over a Facebook claim that he blew up Daphne Caruana Galizia. And our last story will be about a former PN candidate explaining why she's leaving the party. At the end of this episode, we've got a really cool interview with Dean Micallef from Pitchora. It's this new initiative that's going to support startups. Super interesting in today's business climate. I really think you should all tune in. It's going to be super interesting. And also just a small reminder to check out Lovin Daily Digest. That's Lovin Malta's newsletter. All you need to do is sign up on our page and it gives you essentially a breakdown of everything we've covered during the day. John, onto our first story, Master Priest.
one of our favorite priests, Father David Muscat, is back in the news again. So obviously we've covered him extensively, be it him appearing at Norman Lowell rallies or talking some wild things when it comes to gay marriage and other similar topics. But he's appeared and he's talked now about what it's like to deal with sexuality as a priest in Malta, what it's like dealing with pornography and masturbating. So on an episode of Ragnar Chantar's podcast called Il Podcast, Father David Muscat appeared and talked about these topics. And he said, listen, I masturbate, I watch porn, I even swear sometimes. And what do? I go to my priest, I confess it, and he tells me to say the rosary. And he even explained why he has these kind of tendencies, saying that his father was a sailor in the Royal Navy and that he was a bartender. So obviously, if you know this priest, he's a very colorful man. And it was a little bit refreshing, actually, to hear a Maltese priest open up and speak honestly about, masturbating and sexual needs. However, obviously, in typical Muscat fashion, he quickly went off the rails and he started saying some very wild things. For example, saying that gay couples are really trying to get married inside churches, that they won't sleep until they get the power to be married inside a church. And he said, listen, if that's ever going to happen, I will kick them out and I'll even go to jail for it. He said, God is first, and then he went on to say, in Arab say Allahu Akbar, God is first. But then he said, quote, unfortunately, they have a very wrong conclusion as well because they tend to go boom. So very, very colorful, probably too colorful priest from Masta with some very questionable ideas about gay marriage and even Arabs. However, it's interesting to have a priest talk about sexuality and admit to masturbating while being a priest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure it is at least, kind of like interesting, to see at least the priest being so open, about the sexual realities. As in, I'm sure there are many priests and nuns, for that matter, who do exactly the same thing. The only thing I find really funny, right? I mean, you said it yourself. Father David expects everyone, to be understanding of his situation, of his mistakes, what led him to this point, but then he can't be at all understanding of anyone else who's different to him. Sounds like a bit like the most open-minded, closed-minded person I've seen, and I just think it's a bit insidious, right? Because I think, claims like that is a really easy way to bring young people on board, right, to your cause. So you're saying, I'm cool, I masturbate, I watch porn, but by the way, gays are really bad, so are Muslims, so are this, so are that, so I mean, that's just my opinion. Let us know what your opinion is in the comments below. I mean, we'd love to hear it. On to our next story. I mean, quite serious allegations coming out of this morning from the Times of Malta. They said that police are investigating a high-profile case of parents misappropriating funds that are meant to be donations for their child's treatment, who apparently suffers with a very serious illness. The donations include money from Putino Cares and should have gone towards everything that this child would need. However, it's been revealed that this child's treatment abroad was actually free, and the parents used the money in suspicious ways, including sports betting and quite large cash transactions. The issue with this kind of misappropriation is that donations are given usually in quite small amounts, right? So you've got €2, you've got €5, you've got 10s, 20s, 100s. So it's sort of really easy, you know, to slip through the cracks. In fact, the police themselves told the Times of Malta that they've had 2 similar cases of this in the past, but were unable to prosecute because of a lack of evidence. Myself, I'm a bit, you know, semi-skeptical about the story, more in the sense of what the parents' intent was, right? I'm not 100% sold. Maybe it was the parents' intention, right, to sort of defraud donors and these funds for their own personal benefit. I almost have a sneaking suspicion, you know, like, you sort of see these extra money around and you just use it without really realizing how bad it is. But obviously this is all coming at the time of Malta's money laundering clampdown, right, John?
That's exactly right. Let's be very clear, you know, VOs and NGOs have been speaking out over the last few months as new regulations are being put in place specifically to regulate donations and fundraising. And some VOs have called it out. You know, some NGOs have spoken to us saying this reform is actually a hindrance to them collecting funds. So now we're seeing that it's actually affecting parents as well. And let's be clear, you know, when it comes to Malta, there are a lot of prominent families and parents of sick children. So we'll probably be hearing more about this story over the coming few days. Moving on to the next story, a bit of a wild story coming out of Hamrun. A 39-year-old man has been charged with attacking his mother with a sword. So this man who has been left unnamed is currently unemployed and is actually on invalidity pension benefits, has pled not guilty to the charges. So basically it seems that there was an incident where this man picked up the sword and he caused his mother to fear violence to the point that, you know, he was threatening her with the weapon. She obviously had to reach out to the police. And in the case, he was actually also charged with breaching a previous probation order. He didn't request bail, so he's still in custody. But, you know, my God, like, I can just imagine a 70-year-old mother, you know, trying to have a relaxing day or whatever, and then her son picks up a sword and lunges at her. You know, not the best day.
No, happy Mother's Day, right? To be honest, I'm a bit lost for words, right, with this story. I really don't know what to say. It's a really crazy story, you know. I mean, as much as there's like comical parts of it, right, I think it just harks on a bit on like the issue of domestic violence, right, in the country, and familial violence, something which should all be kept out for, you know, and very good to see the police take action. I'm also looking forward to seeing the case progress, right, and actually seeing the finer details, what actually happened, because I really can't understand it for now. On to our next story. Joseph Muscat is back in the news again after he sued lawyer Christian Grima over claims on Facebook that the former Prime Minister was responsible for blowing up Daphne Caruana Galizia. A really crazy claim. The Prime Minister wrote on social media, you know, how he had only filed 5 libel suits in 15 years and he was always in favor of freedom of expression. Obviously not mentioning that among those people he sued was Daphne Caruana Galizia and her son for claims they made against him. But he said this claim from Christian Grima simply crossed the line. Lovin Malta actually published the Facebook post from Christian Grima. Basically, Grima was resharing a post of MZPN showing Michelle Muscat in that infamous interview with Malta Today, where she sort of was saying how she suffered the most, more than the family, in the death of Caruana Galizia. And Christian Grima wrote, do you want to know what happened to her? Your husband blew her up. Obviously triggering quite a strong response from Joseph Muscat. For those who don't know, Grima, he's quite a popular political commentator on Facebook, very known for his outspoken commentary. We'll see how this is going to develop, right? I'm looking for the libel case, you know. Let's see what happened. You know, sometimes a libel case is the best place for the truth to come out, particularly with the serious allegations facing Muscat's right-hand man at the moment. But Schembri was also in the news today, right, John?
That's exactly right. So, talking about court, Keith Schembri was meant to be in court today. However, he's been admitted to hospital just this morning over health conditions. So, quite an interesting development in this case. Obviously, everyone would love to hear what the former chief of staff has to say, especially in a court setting. But now that he's been admitted to hospital, you know, he will not be present for today's compilation of evidence against him. So we'll definitely have to see how this story develops over the next few days. From our understanding, it might actually be a bit of a serious health issue as well. So we'll definitely have to see how that develops. Moving on to the final story, and this is a story that I think is quite interesting. A young Maltese female former PN candidate, I mean, she just became formally a PN candidate because she was planning to contest on the PN's ticket, has spoken out about why she didn't really feel at home within the Nationalist Party. So Tiffany Abella Waj, who is the wife of former MCDA councillor as well, you know, had spoken out about why she wanted to raise women's rights, women's issues within the PN, specifically two main points: access to contraception as well as reproductive rights. Something that she's very interested in is tubal ligation, which is the tying of one tubes in a woman. And she explained how, you know, she wasn't really given a chance to really raise these issues. And it all came to a bit of a head when she had appeared on an interview, a very low-key interview, she said, where she talked about tubal ligation. And when it ended, she got a call from the party telling her off for appearing in this interview for not having advised them beforehand. And they told her, quote, listen, this topic is not really on the agenda. So she was obviously left a bit, you know, hurt. She felt like her voice wasn't really being heard, and she ended up leaving the party. Now, we asked her, listen, do you feel like this is coming from Bernard Grech, the leader? Do you feel like this is coming from another angle? And she said, honestly, I've only met Bernard Grech one time, and that was after I resigned. Quote, there's just too many people in the party that have been there defeat after defeat, and they keep getting more and more important roles. So a bit of an insight as to why a young politician might enter the political fray and just within a few months leave it. And let's be clear, this wasn't her first, you know, foray into politics. She's been militating within the party for about 14 years as a volunteer. So she's very, very much part and parcel of the PN.
Yes, and I think a case like this fundamentally shows why I am categorically against the gender quota mechanism. Because all what it's doing is imposing decisions on the voters when the parties are clearly making little to no effort to retain women in the party, or at least the only women they want to retain are the women who agree with them and don't want to challenge them. I also find it quite funny, right? The PN have always championed themselves of being a mosaic of ideas. We have ideas from the left, the right, the center. Actually shows that they don't. In recent weeks, we've seen cases involving Jason Natsopard and Adrian Delia. Adrian Delia was also prevented from coming on an interview on this very show because of no approval from the PN. It seems that at least not Bernard Grech, but at least the people up top are shutting up shop and creating a closed-door process when all we want is a more open party that is actually going to be transparent and provide us with an actual alternative. That's it for me and John for now. After this small video, we've got Dean Micallef from Pitchora. He's here to talk about a new initiative supporting startups. It's really interesting. Stay tuned after this short video.
In Malta, we don't say.
So we're back with Dean Micallef from Pitchora. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So obviously, we wanted to bring you in because it sounds like this is quite an exciting new project, Pitchora. So let's just start from the beginning for people who might not have heard of Pitchora.
Sure.
What is it exactly?
So just to start, Pitchora has been 4 years in the making. We've been working with startups sort of unofficially and formally for the last 4 years. We've put the package together and Pitchora was created. Pitchora is basically an event that is looking to attract or seek the best startups, but more importantly, choose the best startups, the ones that have made a distinction between what looks like a hobby and what looks like an actual business model. Competition to give these guys a platform, to do something great with their idea.
No, that's really awesome. Like launching a competition aimed at startups in Malta, especially in 2021, when there's quite a lot of creativity on the island right now, is definitely something we need. So where did the idea come from? Did you see something abroad? Were you speaking to locals?
It's a bit of a mix. So about, again, 3-4 years ago, I attended Web Summit, which is an incredible event in Lisbon at the time, and it tends to be held in Lisbon, and it was a platform. All the heavyweights from your Facebook, Googles and all that, down to the smallest of startups.
Wow.
And these guys were given access to the heavyweights. And I think that was the difference between what major cities abroad are doing versus what we're kind of doing. And we are improving, I mean, let's not get it wrong kind of thing, but that event showed that there was this ecosystem, this whole mixing together of the tiniest of startups from the smallest of villages mixing with the heavyweights, and the heavyweights are helping them, structure. I think that's the main inspiration. Over the last 4 years, we've been working very closely with them, trying to fine tune to make it more specific to the local setup. I think now we have it right. Now we're ready to go. We're ready to go formally with Pitchora.
Now, having this kind of infrastructure is definitely very, very, very suitable for Malta right now. So when it comes to startups, because that might be a bit vague to some people, can you give some examples of kind of some entries or submissions that you would be interested in or that have worked in the past?
So the event is based on a scoring system. Very high level stuff, but what it looks for specifically in the startups that we are looking for are an element of innovation and or disruption. So basically, is there a need in the market that can be serviced in a better way, or is there a need which is not even serviced? So some sort of innovative approach to it. So anyone can really apply. So startup can have the simplest of definitions, but who will make the final 3 finalists and the winners need to have something special, something innovative, something disruptive, something different that is more, akin to what's happening internationally with the technologies that we are so lucky to have nowadays.
So, are there winners? How's it going to work? So, are there a final 3, 5, 10, and what will they be awarded?
Okay, so we have our applications are now open. So basically, all startups can apply from now till the end of the month, so 31st May.
Amazing.
From that batch that do apply, we have a selection committee that will be identifying the final 10. So we will shortlist the best 10. Those 10 will then receive pitch training by a team of professionals, so they actually get the training they need. So for now, just focus on the application, and then you'll get the training. So don't think too much about the finals. Those 10 will receive the pitch training, and on the 5th and 6th of July, they'll be facing judges, very Shark Tankish kind of thing, where they're going to be pitching their idea in 500 seconds.
Have fun.
And the judges will be tasked with the job of choosing the best 3.
So who are the judges?
The judges are quite a mix of people. They all have some kind of involvement in the startup scene, so they come from the commercial world, the marketing world, entrepreneurs themselves. Everyone who has supported the initiative directly or indirectly is somewhat involved.
Is there a sector, tech, business, media, that you're hoping to see a few entries in?
I don't want to limit it. I'm going to be very honest, although naturally it does move towards a very techie side of things. However, the business model itself, although it's supported by tech, can be anything really. We've had businesses in the retail market, in IT, in marketing, in engineering, and even in the pharma space. The solution tends to be very techie, but the business model itself doesn't have to be the end to it. Doesn't have to be a technological product itself. It's more supporting a different business model in itself. So I don't want to limit it. Everyone's able to apply. Again, the scoring system will justify whether you're ready for making the finals, etc.
So, speaking to some other people, COVID-19, the pandemic has been a big impact, oftentimes negatively, on many sectors. Yeah. When it comes in general to the startup scene in Malta 2021, even last year, did COVID have a big effect?
I think COVID played a role in accelerating what was eventually inevitable. So I still think that whoever's on the scene now would have eventually made it on the scene. Now that's where we come in as well. Through Pitchora, we want to give them that platform, to accelerate their own business models. But I think COVID did help give, these companies, these individuals, the thinking time. Undistracted. Look, you're down. You have nothing else to do. Figure it out. And I think that did help that process quite a bit. So there's more thinking time. So yes, COVID did assist. Also, COVID highlighted that certain business models were no longer working. So they highlighted the need, you know. Now, whether the need will outlive COVID or not, we're still yet to see, but I think we have paved the way for new technologies that will outlive COVID, which is obviously the exciting part.
So where can people submit? Do they go to a website?
Yep, absolutely. So Pitchora is now live. We have pitchora.com. You'll find all the information over there. Just feel free, log in. I want to also stress the point that don't overthink the application. So you want to get in touch. There's a team waiting to take your points, your questions. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're just trying to find the best startups. So don't miss the opportunity just because you're not sure on how to submit the application or overthinking what will happen on the pitch day and all that. So just go online, get in touch if need be. And the team's ready to help and support in whatever shape or form, really.
That's amazing. So the closing date is 31st May.
Yep.
Pitchora.com is where you need to go to submit. And if you need help, just hit them up, contact them. They are ready to help you out. And this is all going to come to a head 5th to 6th July on the University of Malta campus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be an event. Obviously, COVID rules depending. We're trying to see how big the event can be, but just to play it safe, everything's in line with the regulations that we have in place today. So there'll be judges present, there'll be a pitch stage if you like, it'll be quite cool. It's going to be fun.
That's going to be super exciting. I'm definitely going to be following that. Dean, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's been a pleasure.
Pitchora.com, guys, definitely check it out and submit if you think you've got the idea. That brings us to the end of today's episode. From myself and the whole team, have a day full of love.